bookish baddies? It's your girl Brandy Nikhil, and I'm back. I got on my nice cozy red onesie, my nice red nails. It's the holiday season. I'm nice and toasty and cozy in the house. And with toasty and cozy comes finishing some books. And I finally finished a book that has been on my TBR for a long time and that I have been reading for a long time. The Secret History by Donna Tartt. So I am a big fan of the dark academia vibe. I like it a lot. And so everybody's like, well, if you like that, it's a no-brainer. You have to read The Secret History. And so I did. Needless to say, it was good. Needless to say, I took a lot from it. And I'm always an annotator, but I knew it was really good when I had to like do a key for my annotations. So I have to do another video where I kind of just like walk y'all through my annotations for this book because it got deep. Like there are like sticky notes. I was writing things in here, notes and studying things and translating things. Like it got deep. It got deep. It got sticky. The Secret History. So let's talk about The Secret History. Let's get into it. And then what I really want to focus on in this video is a theme that I feel like I don't hear enough people talk about in this book and how it relates to something I feel like we've all been learning our whole lives for the most part. So let's jump into it. So The Secret History was published in 1992 by Donna Tartt. Donna Tartt is a phenomenal author. She usually takes about like 10 years to write each of her books. So she is a very well-researched, descriptive writer. And she wrote this book loosely, very, very loosely, based on her college experience. And if you look it up, she actually went to college with a few other like writers and really well-known people. But you can look that up in your own time. That's not what this video is about. So this was published in 1992. So it is a early 90s book, really 80s book. She was writing it in the 80s and it was published in 92. And let's talk about what it's about. So there may be some spoilers here if you've never read it, but I still feel like even with these spoilers, it is really worth reading. So the book starts out, it's in the voice of Richard. His name is Richard. He's the narrator, and he's an unreliable narrator, which I feel like always takes a book to the next level for me, because it's like I'm listening and I'm buying in, I feel a way about all the characters, but then I'm brought back to reality and I'm like, but this person's an unreliable narrator. They're a liar. Richard says in this book, I'm a liar, y'all. Like, I'm pretty sure I got a sticky note. Hold on. Because I'm pretty sure I had wrote that down, because he was clear about it. He was like, oh, by the way, I'm a liar. Richard, liar, humble beginnings. He give it to you right off the top. I'm a liar, so do with this what you will, right? Okay. So anyways, Richard is the narrator of this entire book. And it opens up with like, yeah, it was snowing and it took them, 2 weeks to find Bunny's body. We was in deep. And I was like, ooh, who is Bunny? Who was in deep? What happened? So then we get into it. So we're introduced to the characters. So there's Richard. They all go to a university in Vermont, like a really elite university, comparable to the Ivies, but small, like a small college. I think it's actually a college and not a university. But anyways, so Richard, he is from California, very humble beginnings, but he likes to pretend like he came from a little bit of money. Because he don't want to feel like left out. There is Bunny. Bunny is from like a all-American family, big family, lots of sisters, brothers, etc. There's Charles and Camilla. They are twins and they are orphans, but from a well-to-do family. And then Francis, who's from a very well-to-do family as well. He's the redhead. And then there's Henry, and Henry's like the enigma. Like Henry is like, nobody really knows a whole lot about Henry, but they know Henry got some money. They know that much. He gets some big money every month from his family. Like Henry got it happening. But he's a little bit more of introverted and a little bit more like to himself, but still part of the group. And they are all part of a group because they're all doing or pursuing a degree in Greek literature, pretty much, so in the classics. And so this professor, his name's Julian, and Julian only takes like 5 to 6 students, period. So like that's all he'll teach. And so they pretty much do all their coursework with Julian. So it's just those students I just introduced you to, those 6, and they all basically live underneath Julian. Like he teaches them everything. They don't really take many outside classes. They're really immersed in the content. And I think that's kind of cool because like you get to be a real master at something. So if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know I just got my doctorate. And one of my favorite things about the matriculation from undergrad to master's to doctorate is how focused you can get. So in undergrad, you have to take all of these prereqs and extra classes and this and that. And then you take, you know, a handful of classes in your subject. And it's like, okay, cool. And then in your master's, it's like all you taking is the stuff that count. And then in your doctorate, it's like not only are you only taking stuff that counts, but then you are focusing your dissertation on something that only you care about, really. And so I did mine on fat phobia, but that's a conversation for a whole nother day coming soon. Anyways, back to the book. So they are all part of this group with Julian. That's how they become super close. And as Richard is getting to know them, he's starting to uncover their flaws and kind of what the dynamics are between the friends. Like, oh, this person isn't who they say they are. This person's a little bit different. This person's got this going on. This person has this insecurity. So he's really getting to know them really well during this, you know, the time that they spend together, because they spend all their time together, right? And so during this time, they're all going to like the summer house. I think it's Francis's family's house, and they'll go out there and spend time and just, you know, like enjoy each other's company and get in the lake and just, you know, Richard is just basking in this because he's like, I ain't got no money for real. So this is nice to be able to hang with all these rich kids. Money's not an object. I'm out, you know, just living his life like it's golden, right? And it's really, Donna Tartt does a great job of painting the picture. Like there's such beautiful world building happening in these first, like in the first half of the book, really. So much world building. You're really immersing yourself in the character. You're feeling like you're there. You can feel the crisp fall in the air when you're reading the book. Like it gives that. It's a perfect fall read. Fall/winter, because it's fall transitioning into winter. But anywho. And so Richard, although he's really enjoying his time with these people, he does recognize that like he's still a little bit of an outsider. Like they had a connection before he came along. And so, you know, he's trying his best to stay involved. But sometimes he just like catches a whiff of like, wait, y'all been doing something without me? Wait, when did that happen? What's that inside joke? Nobody called me. You know, he have his moments, but he like, it's cool. I'm going to let it ride. All in all, everything's cool. So I'm not going to trip, right? So he don't trip. And so one day, Bunny comes to his room and he like, you know, I think he's drunk and he like, yeah. And what you don't know about Henry them is that they didn't kill somebody. And Richard like, whoa. Are you sure? You probably lying. You know, he ain't believing it, right? He ain't buying it. I can't have a moment to myself. Go on and say hi to the people. Say hi. Say hi. I'm harassing my mama. Get down. Off. Life of a mother. Anyways, and so when Richard goes and confronts Henry about it, you know, Henry like tells him what happened, and he's like, you know, we did this thing, we were basically doped up, and Bunny knows, and we're scared he's gonna tell. Like now that he's told you, we're pretty sure he's gonna go tell. We're screwed, right? So they come up with a plan. A master plan. And so they decide that they got to kill Bunny. And I'm like, Y'all jumped straight to that. Y'all had no other solutions. But anyways, they decide they gotta kill Bunny. Bunny gotta go because his lips is loose. We knew if he tell Richard, then he gonna tell everybody. And so once he told Richard, that was like they signed to be like, we gotta eliminate the problem. And so they decide they're gonna kill Bunny. They do. I'm not going to tell you, how the rest of the book plays out because you might want to read it. Maybe you haven't read it yet, but I promise you, very worthy read. Very worthy read. It took me a long time to get through this book, but only because I was savoring it. Like the mood of it it was so intense. It was so gripping. It was so immersive that I wanted to savor it. I didn't want to speed through it. So it was really good. I love a book that either I want to get through, like I can't stop reading it, or a book that I'm like, oh, I want to save some. Like I knew reading this book that like at some point I was going to wish I could read it for the first time again. So anyways, it took me a long time to finish. But now I want to get into one of the themes that I feel like is not frequently discussed. I'm not saying it's never discussed, but a lot of people talk about the themes of guilt, of envy, of isolation, of classism, and those types of things. But I feel like something that I haven't seen enough people talking about is this need to belong in a way that we've been taught since kids to avoid. So you remember when your mama used to say, if so-and-so jump off a bridge, you gonna jump too? That's what it's giving. Like remember they used to have the assemblies at school that would talk about like not giving in to peer pressure and knowing how to speak up for yourself, and just because your friends are doing drugs doesn't mean you need to do drugs, like those types of things, like those conversations that we got a lot as kids, especially if you're a millennial. I feel like there was a heavy push on like the DARE program and the SAD program and all these different things to keep us away from like peer pressure and really teach us to like stand on our own too, even if it's your friend, right? And so with that being said, I feel like this book is in direct alignment with that. And I don't see a lot of people talking about that, but there's so many themes that I can see why this one may slip through the cracks. So in the beginning of the book, we see Richard come into the fold and he immediately starts to try his best to fit in. He's like, okay, any money I get has to go towards fitting in. I got to get me a tweed jacket. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to make sure I'm hiding pictures of my family because I don't want them to know who I really am. Partially because he's a liar, but mostly because he wants to give off the vibe. He wants to give off the aesthetic that he's just like them. He wants to fit in so bad. He wants to be in this group. He wants to be in Julian's group so bad that he's like harassing this man. Like he's showing up at the door like, hey, please let me in, please let me in, please let me in. And there's just this constant feel of like him begging to be included and begging to be accepted into this group, into this life, really, because it's not just this group, it's into the greater society of this college. And then as things begin to unfold, he participates in Bunny's murder. He knows what they did to this in this other murder. Like he's accepted. He's there. He's present and accounted for. You all in now. And there's a point in the story towards the end where you see him recognize like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done this. I don't want to be tied to these people for life. I don't want to be accepted that bad. Like, this is not what I was looking for. And I let my need for friendship drag me down a road from which I can never come back. And let me tell you the point in the book. I'm going to read the quote to you. 1 second. Okay, so at this point, he's having a interaction with Francis, and he says, without warning, I had a vision of Francis 20 years later, 50 years, in a wheelchair, and of myself, older too, sitting around with him in some smoky room, the two of us repeating this exchange for the 1,000th time. At one time, I had liked the idea that the act at least had bound us together. We were not ordinary friends, but friends till death do us part. This thought had been my only comfort in the aftermath of Bunny's death. Now it made me sick, knowing there was no way out. I was stuck with them, with all of them, for good. And you can see I wrote down here, his deepest desire to fit in has backfired. And so I think that it just really speaks to being cautious of how far you let imposter syndrome take you, how far you're willing to go to fit in, how far you're willing to go to be accepted, how far you're willing to go to have an idealistic life, because you don't know what that really is. You don't know what it's like on the inside. Some people are so busy chasing that they don't take a moment to say, like, what is it I really want? What are my own morals? What are my own standards? You're too busy trying to fit a picture and an image of like, okay, well, whatever these people do, I like how it looks. I like how it feels. I want that for myself. So whatever their morals are, I just got to go with that. They wouldn't steer me wrong. People will steer you wrong. They sure will. They will steer you off that bridge that your mama told you. If they jump off the bridge, is you going to follow them? Yes. Yes, Richard did. And now, even if he parts from these people, y'all are bonded in a way that y'all can never escape. So that was one of the many themes in the book that really stood out to me. But I was like, man, this goes back to elementary school. This goes back to your first conversations with adults about how to manage friendships. And sadly, you know, Richard in his 20s still learning the lesson. A lot of us in our 30s, 40s, 50s still learning the lessons about knowing how to say, this is not what I want. Knowing how to say, I do not need to be accepted into a space where I do not fit, where it does not fit my morals, my values, my ideas, my thoughts. It's okay to sit out sometimes. All right, until next time, guys. Bye.